We're joined now by Arizona State legend, 13-year NFL vet, heading into year 14 and Super Bowl 53 champion, Lawrence. Lawrence, thanks so much for taking the time today, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm gonna enjoy this interview right now.
Love it. Love it. Which of those sounds the most surreal to you? Being an Arizona State legend, heading into year 14 in the NFL, or Super Bowl 53 champion?
Well, yeah, well, one is a Super Bowl champ because it's probably one of the hardest things to accomplish once you get into the NFL because you have to think about that. Like you draw the luck of what teams you might be on, and once you get into the playoff system, it's a dime in a dozen. Like anything can happen. Any call can ruin it.
Yeah.
I went the two, lost one, won one. So like that one's pretty awesome. But understanding where I came from Arizona State, is probably one of the biggest things that is humbling because you know where you started at, and where
Yeah.
you started at is the foundation of where you're going to build.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, feeling lucky to end up where you are. And I think something that we don't talk about a lot of the times when it comes to professional athletes who have long careers is you put in so much work, but also where you land. And there's a lot of luck that goes into it as well. Do you feel like maybe the average fan doesn't think about like how circumstances come into play to having such a long, successful professional sports career?
Well, I think people don't understand the dedication you have to put into it. When you leave college, it's a different atmosphere. In college, you go from I go to study hall, I go to class, I go to football. Then once you leave there and you make it to the pros, it's football, 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 until you get that family time. But it's how much you put it into it, how many hours you put into it, the film study, the rehab, the recovery, all that aspect of it means your longevity into the league, and you have to stay on tune of what's going on, how you need to develop, how you need to consistently break down different teams on an average day and see who's coming in, who's going out the league. And people to kind of just skim by that, like, oh man, I could do it. Like I said, it's an everyday thing. I tell people all the time, you can come train with me if you want to, and they ask, they're like, what do you mean? I said, I'm fine with you training with me, but I always tell people like, if you feel like you could do it, you need to go run to the point where you have tears coming up in your eyes. And when you get to that point, that's when you need to know you have to get past it. I
Yeah.
said, once you get past that, then you understand what you have to do every single game. You get to the point you have to plateau and go past that plateau. If it goes to an extra drive or extra quarter, or if it's a long thing, it's no giving up. I think that's the if you get that state of mind of you can never give up on a play, never give up on watching film, never give up on recovery, you can have a very long career in this league.
Built different. You think you could do that, Eric?
I don't think I could.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest
I
with
don't
you.
think either one of us could.
I would love to say that I could. I'd love to be like I could push myself to tears, but I mean, listen, that's just a completely different level.
Yeah.
Especially in the NFL, like being a professional athlete, period. But the level of brutality and physicality, and also the mental side of it as well. Like you have to be so smart to play professional football.
It takes a lot. Like you
You got to
said.
be able to turn it off when you go home with your family. Like it's a level like, can you turn it off? I know a lot of people that can't turn off, but you have to be able to turn it off to go home and be that. And that's the best thing about it is, and that joyful of it, you just get to do it. Like I said, it's a blessing. Like I said, you have to understand where you come from. And once you get that grasp of it, every single year it's a blessing to be able to go out there and lace up those cleats on that field, because once you're done in an NFL setting, you're not going to put cleats on and a helmet on and shoulder pads on. It is you're done for. It's not like basketball, you could go play pickup. So you get to enjoy every single year that you got to grind out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned remembering where you come from, and we bring up Arizona State. For you, what was your time like in Tempe being a Sun Devil? And when you look back at those memories, is there one that sticks out most to you?
Oh man, I had a lot of great times when I was in Tempe. I got a pitchfork on my leg. Like, geez, I got the old pitchfork. You know,
Wow.
when they made the new pitchfork, I was like, God, I was like,
that's what the other leg's for.
Yeah, that's what the other leg's for.
You know, I'm like, God, I wish I got the cool one. But it's just so many memories from my time there. So many friendships, so many stories to go over. But it's just I remember I was just talking to one of my friends, and I just remember we used to go to a place called Don and Charlie's, and the best memory we always had. We had a full discussion one day that we were going to stop eating the cheesy bread and the spinach dip so heavily before the games because we're like it might be slowing us down. And they're like, "Yeah, we're going to do it." And as we got done with our like third basket of cheesy bread and second and dip, we're like, "Man, I don't think that's going to work out for us this time."
Don and Charlie's, that's the place with all the sports memorabilia, right?
Right.
All over the place. Oh yeah. And so when you talk about Arizona State and great memories and everything like that, obviously you put in a ton of work while you were here, enough to make it to the next level, which not a lot of college athletes do. What about athletically at Arizona State University and their football program helped you be ready for the grind that is the NFL and to be successful in it for over a decade?
Well, I just think is an understanding what your accomplishments are trying to be, and with the players that we had in our room, we try to push each other to another level. If it was running with the linebackers, if it was sitting there studying more, if it was just pushing each other with an extra single rep, we had a bond there was in between us that we all had a little brotherhood that we wanted to be better than where we were. We wanted to do more than where we came from, and we wanted to represent our families in a way that we could continue to live on that legacy from college into the next level. If it wasn't from pro, if it was from something else, that we put our legacy down and lived it. And I think that program was best for me at that time where I was out in life to help me grow as a man and as a young man at that time and truly just develop my skills from on the field and off the field. And it's kudos to everybody that was there. I was a headache. I know I was a headache in college, and everybody in that program. They loved me. They looked after me. They made sure I was on track. And it's a blessing for them to deal with everyday life of a young team coming out of high school with all those different players, and to make sure that everybody was successful.
So you talk about the rooms and having a great, system around you. Was there one teammate or one coach that you feel like was really there for you and kind of helped you get on the right track?
I think there was a lot of us. Like the three, there was a couple people I could tell you that I spent a majority of my time with. Was Jamar Jarrett, my buddy Toa, Bo Moose, and Josh Jordan. We all spent time together, and we was in this little group. And I vary from group to group, but we always made sure that we had each other's back and understand where we were going. And I think as we matured as young men going into college, we understood what we had to leave behind and how we had to grow. And like from that group of people, it's just like we consistently have a understanding. One has passed, and other three are doing better, and we chime in here and there and see how are we doing and ask like what's going on. And I think that's the biggest thing now with mental awareness is seeing how people are doing, and they're saying, "Hey, are you okay? Is this going on?" I know we all went different paths, and we all have different things out of college, but is the family okay? The kids are good, and once you have that understanding, you just kind of ease a little bit better.
Absolutely. We talk a lot, obviously, about your time at Arizona State. College football and college sports have changed so much in the last few years, and obviously since you were at ASU, right? The Sun Devils now heading into year one of Big 12 football, and for you,
Mhm.
you get to represent Arizona State as a part of the inaugural Big 12 Alumni Council. Big part of that, leveraging the experience and expertise of some of the greatest Big 12 athletes and kind of how they can help today's era of college athletes, college football players, college basketball players, et cetera. For you, being named to the Big 12 Alumni Council representing Arizona State, what are you looking forward to most in that role?
I'm looking forward to most of hearing everybody's opinions. When you get into a council like that full of great people, you get to hear everybody else's opinion from how they experience college, how they experience outside of college, how did they develop their brand, how did they develop their community service, and what are they doing? And I think that's what this council is. Once you get into a group of people, you get to experience different forms of life and how we can improve each other, how we can improve the student athlete that's coming into the program or existing in the program, or that student athlete that's leaving the program looking for their next adventure, if it's pro, if it's not pro. Just understanding what we could do to help them around that path. Because I think this new era of college football, there's so many opportunity with social media, with networking, that you're able to give them leverage in life more than we were back in the day. Like Twitter didn't exist when I was in college. Like it just came out. Instagram didn't exist, so we didn't have those resources that you could brand yourself out there and actually communicate with other future athletes that were going. So I think this council is going to be beneficial for everybody to learn on both sides, the people on the council and the people off the council, to grow as individuals and become one for a better program overall.
Yeah. I love your mindset on the whole thing, especially in the ever-changing landscape that is just college sports, period. And as somebody who played college athletics for 3 years, and now you look back at everything that has changed, you talk about being able to brand yourself on Instagram and social media and all the benefits that come with that. But do you feel like maybe it's harder to be an 18, 19, 20-year-old athlete now just because of that extra pressure, even if it could bring some bonuses?
No, 100%. I agree with you 100% right there. It's super difficult. We didn't have those stresses. I didn't have the stress of going on in Twitter in my name. Like, let me see what somebody's writing about me. Let me see if somebody tagged me in a post on Instagram. That wasn't my concern in college. In college, when we was going there, like, you just played. You knew you were doing good if you got more photo shoot opportunities. And you're like, oh, I got a banner. Oh, I'm on this poster. Other than that, you didn't really get to hear the noise outside of the locker room. And I think today's college athlete, they hear so much noise consistently. You can't go on Instagram, you can't go on Facebook, you can't go on Twitter without being tagged, and it's consistently going on there. So that's why I say mental awareness is big also, because we have to understand that every single student athlete is dealing with something. They just left home for the first time, and then now they're entering this new world trying to be their own person. And if they have success, they get to hear about it. If they have failure, they get to hear about it. How do you help them manage that stress load of coming into their own and dealing with the outside world? And I think, as you said, it is very hard as these young adults coming into college are dealing with this. Then you got NIL and everything like that. It's just added pressure getting put on. And that's why I think, again, the council is going to be good, where we could share experiences through the league, outside of the league, how you can deal with stress and how you can manage that overwhelmingness of people praising you and people criticizing you.
Absolutely. And, for you, you've been very public with overcoming your struggles with ADHD, dyslexia, dyscalculia, everything like that. As somebody with ADHD myself, I've found your work and you're speaking about it, just, very powerful stuff. I want, just from your perspective, for people who maybe don't have a full understanding of those things and maybe the challenges that they can bring, not just to an athlete, but to a student, a kid growing up in elementary school, and maybe somebody who doesn't know that they have ADHD until later in life. What is that like for somebody who has to go through it and finds their way to be successful like you have?
Well, I didn't find out dyslexia until I was like 21. And when I found out, I was like, oh, snaps. So this makes like, that makes 100% sense. I said, y'all should have told me years ago.
Right.
This is why I keep flipping these letters around sometimes. But it's just one of those things. I had this conversation with people all the time where they're like, did you know? You're like, no, because it's just normal for me. And even with those people growing up, it's just normal. So when you start reading, it's just a normal way to read for you. It might take me a little bit longer to read something. Don't have me read no text message. I'm gonna take a little bit of time because I'm like, hold on, that don't make no sense. Let me reread this. But it's understanding that some things are going to come a little bit slower. Some things are going to come a little bit faster than anybody else. But you get to learn in a unique way. So you learn different techniques of learning or picking up things. So every aspect when somebody's talking to you, like, I get what you're saying. I think my tutors in college benefited me a lot because of that, because they helped me pick up different things a different way. So when I had to write an essay or when I had to diagnose some of these papers, I was like, I get it now. I understand where you're coming from because this is the way I got taught. But like from a young child growing up or a young adult dealing with it and they don't know, I can understand the challenging. It gets frustrating. It's like, man, like, say, don't give me no time test. It might take me a little bit longer. Just not because I can't understand it, because it just takes me a little bit longer to retain what is being said, because like say, you might jump some words around here and there. But once you work through that, you gain so much more access of learning and access of understanding outside things. With my ADD, so I got ADHD. So with that, I think the funniest thing about that is I know when it kicks in, and I think my coach knows when it kicked in too, because he just be like, "You here with me?" I'm like, "Nah, bro." I said, "You lost me about 10 minutes ago." I said, "I know exactly what you're saying. I'm already there. I watched the film." But like, he's like, "What are you looking at?" I'm looking at Buddy's shoes. Like his shoes untied. I'm just trying to figure out why he won't trip. Stuff like that kind of kicks in, but you just zone out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I figured that out, and that's why I get ahead of the game. I get ahead of film study. I get ahead of the game plan, understanding where it's at, because I know I might just zone out here and there. I used to tell people all the time, like just don't ask me a question in middle of meetings. Like I know exactly what you're talking about, but might not be there at that time. I might just be a little bit out the space cadetting a little bit, looking at something totally different. But I think everybody in their own way that has played sports has a little bit of ADD, and that's the way we get it out. We get all the extra energy out, and we like to go out there and express everything.
Yeah, I think you've talked a lot about people that have helped you and family and teammates, but you yourself and your wife Andrea do plenty of helping off the field. You guys launched the Lawrence Guy Family Foundation a couple years back. You guys donated, I believe, 40 strollers to moms in need. I've seen a bunch of different events that you guys have been a really big part of. Just what was the motivation behind that foundation? And what's it like for you to have the success that you have and then give back to really a ton of communities off the field?
So the motivation is life. And the reason I say that is we pick stuff through our lives, right? Where we want to donate from. And once you do that, we have a passion with our philanthropy. If we look at the strollers, we had an event giving birth to our third child where we had to overhear a mom struggle through phone calls to her family where nobody cared. And we're in triage, and if nobody cared about enough to entertain her 5 minutes of, hey, I just had a baby, it was an emergency C-section. Nobody gave it anything. And we decided to give her everything that she needed. Bought her the stroller, bought her the car seat, bought her a year worth of supply. And I started a trend where we're like, every single year, we're going to have a donation for single moms that have a kid, that's having a kid, and that previous kids give them something too, but donate strollers. And every single year, we have donated 50 to 40 strollers to single moms. And I tell them all the time, I said, I'm not sitting here trying to donate simple strollers. I'm getting you the top of the line stuff that I get from my kids, like Upper Baby. We our biggest thing was Upper Baby. We got everybody Upper Bit of Vistas. And I said, this is a dual stroller. Side back car seats, where we donated 40, 50 side back car seats. And all this stuff is around $800 to $500 a pop. And we wanted to make sure that they got what we have as my family. And we continue to do that due to the fact that we understand where people are dealing with in life, right? Because we might be on one path and you're just like, okay, I'm just living this cool life. I don't have any struggles. And something happens where you hear a story, you get to experience something, or it's a tragedy and you might have a bump in the road. I've seen so many bumps in the road from people. I just want to make sure that I was there to help them out. That goes to the Thanksgiving. I want to make sure that everybody on Thanksgiving had a meal. And every year we donate to 300 to 250 turkeys and meals to families. And I think the biggest one we ever did was during the pandemic. We was able to donate 2,500 turkeys and fixings to 2,500 people.
Wow.
And it was one of those biggest things that we got to accomplish. And we were so amazed by it because we always want to make sure that you have school utensils to go to school. Like I said, I understand the hardship of learning. So I want to make sure that everybody had backpacks. I want to make sure they had water bottles or pencils or notebooks. Then we wanted to make sure that everybody had a Christmas. So we did the Christmas shopping. We did make sure that you had food on the table for Christmas, Thanksgiving, food on the table. It's just one of those things that you take from your life and you figured, what can you do that somebody helped you out with to help somebody else out with? If it's somebody gave you a pair of cleats, a pair of shoes, can you give a kid, one or two kids, a pair of shoes 1 year? That makes the biggest difference in somebody's life, is where you give something they wasn't expecting to have for them to be better. And I don't expect nothing in return. I don't expect them to say, hey, man, thank you for this. I just want to understand that there's somebody that's there that heard that asked for help, and that somebody actually cared.
Yeah. That's awesome.
That's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and you can tell you genuinely care, right? Like, it's not just, oh, I'm just doing this because I'm an NFL player and I want to have a charity and whatever. You could tell that like this genuinely means something to you. For somebody who wants to follow along with what you're doing, or maybe even get involved, where can they find all the fantastic work that you're doing?
You can find on my Instagram, that L Guy. You can find on Lawrence Guy Family Foundation on Instagram. We constantly post about everything that we're doing on that. As somebody told me one day, they're like, everybody has a Instagram for their foundation, but we already built this foundation through your initial Instagram. Post everything on that initial Instagram. Don't set a stuff for Instagram. You already built all this fan base. Just make sure you post it there. So all my information comes from my personal Instagram.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. We will definitely make sure that people understand that. Again, I mean, you and your wife doing a lot of great work off the field, helping people. In terms of helping athletes as it stands right now here at Arizona State, right? We talked a little bit about you being a part of the Big 12 Alumni Council. For Arizona State and for the athletes right now that are playing under Kenny Dillingham here, what do you think you can share with them as somebody who has had and is continuing to have a long, successful NFL career, but you were somebody that was a 7th round pick? Right. You weren't necessarily a guy coming out first, second round that was just destined to be a superstar, but you've had a very long, successful career. What would you say to the Arizona State football players right now that aspire to be in your shoes in just a couple years?
Set a goal. Once you set your goal, drive to it. If you don't accomplish that goal, see what you have accomplished on the way to that goal. And that right there will give you more life lessons than getting to the goal. What did you have to go through every single day that you wanted to grind? I can speak for football in intense. If you want to wake up every day at 6 a.m. to go work out, wake up every day at 6 a.m. to work out. Don't give an excuse why you didn't wake up at 6 a.m. to work out. It doesn't matter if I say to 2 o'clock in the morning with my kids. If I have to be up at 7 o'clock to go work out at 7:30, I'm gonna be up at 7 o'clock to go work up at 7:30 because I committed to that. Don't give yourself excuses to quit. And I think that's the biggest thing I can tell you. Don't give an excuse to quit. Give an excuse to continue. There's always going to be factors in life, in football, and injuries that's going to tell you to stop living the dream that you wanted to live. Don't give yourself that excuse. Grind it out. If it's an injury, get past the injury. Keep going to rehab. Do everything you can. If it's getting better at the sport, train your butt off. Watch more film. Do everything you can. And realize what your expectations are and go surpass it. And once you get surpassed that, just live the dream. Enjoy every day that you get out there and can suit up and play on the field.
Now I'm ready to run through a wall.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go get up at 6 a.m. and work out. No excuses. Lawrence, it's been amazing to have you on. One last fun question for you. You've had a long career in college, in the pros, in high school. So if you had to choose one of your former teammates from any team to go out for one more night on Mill Avenue, who are you picking?
From high school? I mean,
Or
from
college or from pros? One teammate.
To go on Mill Ave. Oh, that's a good one. Brandon Williams.
Brandon Williams. I was expecting a Gronk.
I know,
I'm going to be honest. I was
you really
expecting a Gronk.
You really thought Gronk was the answer there.
You see, you was hoping Gronk was the answer. Nah, it's too bad, Gronk.
No, he's a wildcat. He's not allowed up here. He's not allowed on Mill Ave.
Every time I see him, I tell him the same thing.
There we go.
We're friends, but I was like, because you went to a crappy school, but it's all cool. So if nobody knew. So every year we get the care packages, and every single year I gave him my hat, and I make sure I donated my hat there. And I'm like, hey man, here goes a hat for you, and I put it in his locker. And every single time he has looked at me and like, I know this is you. So when he left, I was trying to get someone to give him the hat again. I was like, man, I think you dropped this hat. And so when I saw him again a couple of years after he left, I think he came over to my house and I brought down the hat. I said, I think you left your hat here. And when he left the years of the state hat, I think this is something you should enjoy and take care of. This is your pride and joy.
Oh my God.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Awesome. That is perfect. Arizona State legend, 13-year NFL vet, and Super Bowl 53 champion, Lawrence Guy. We appreciate you taking the time today, Lawrence.
Thank you for having me.